Will everything we know change in 2024? CMOs are forecasting a mass exodus of social media paired with a dramatic rise in AI-generated influencers. They think customers will clamor for AI-free content as a knee-jerk reaction to volumes of deceptive and inaccurate AI-generated propaganda. So what should we believe? And what is a bridge too far in this marketplace? Marketing and sales are full of myths, misconceptions, and apparently AI nearly destroying our livelihood. So join us as we leave the echo chamber and give our 2 cents about what to expect this year.
Hello, and welcome to the Rethink Marketing Podcast, where we push back the doom and gloom with a little realism. I'm Paul Frodge, joined by Mr. Marketing, and for today's conversation, the practical predictor with a penchant for precision, Colin Jeffries. Colin, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Hey, Paul, Happy New Year. I'm doing about as well as a marketing leader who got same-day approval from legal. How about you?
Couldn't agree more, Colin. Just wanted to kick off the new year with a good start with AI. Obviously, it's going to be something that continues to be a topic of conversation each and every day in everybody's lives, no matter if it's personal, business, marketing related, et cetera. So looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Gartner released their 2024 marketing predictions, and they had a lot of people talking because, to your point, Paul, they basically predicted that AI is going to revolutionize the entire landscape of marketing within 12 to 18, maybe 24 months. And some people agreed wholeheartedly, and they're diving full bore into AI. And some people very much disagreed and pushed back and said, wait a minute, we're not ready for this. And the market's not ready for this. So today, we're looking forward to unpacking some of those predictions and maybe giving a few of our own here.
Yeah, absolutely. The AI conversation continues to fast forward at a record pace. However, I agree with you that it might be into the future, many years or many months into the future, and would like to dive into some of these predictions from Gartner.
Absolutely. Let's take it away.
All right. So prediction number 1, AI will increase creative talent spend. So what do you think about that, Colin?
I agree. I don't know if talent spend will be increased necessarily by pressure from AI. I do think that talent spend is going to increase. We've seen this trend the last several years for marketers in particular, and I don't see any sign of this showing down. Part of it, high inflation, just general competition in the marketplace. And let's be honest, Bill Gates has a quote where he says, an excellent coder is probably worth 100,000 times the amount of a good coder. And I think we're definitely seeing that in marketing in today's landscape, where a great marketer who understands influencer marketing, positioning, branding, storytelling, video editing, design, etc., and who's also pairing that with strategy, with tactical execution, with good leadership skills, etc., is going to be worth a lot more than somebody who's pretty good at a couple of things within the realm of marketing, because marketing is so broad now. And to Gartner's point, and to their credit, we're starting to see a lot of the AI adoption fall on the marketing team versus historically that may have fallen on more of the information systems team or the IT team. So I agree with this. I think there are a lot of other pressures that are leading to increased marketing spend as far as personnel costs go. Paul, what's your perspective?
Yeah, what I've been seeing is that from the AI perspective is that the skill set definitely needs to increase in terms of AI prompts and being able to work hand in hand collaboratively with AI, but also agreed with you as well that the expansion of skill sets is going to make individuals more marketable for sure.
Very well said, Paul. Prediction number 2 is that chief marketing officers will start guarding against brand deception unleashed by generative AI.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at this, it's again far out into the future in terms of the predictability of how this is all going to play out. I think it's many years into the future when it comes to this, and would like to understand a little bit more when CMOs and professionals are looking at the generative AI and trying to figure out what is the longevity or what is the forecast going to be is something of conversation.
Absolutely. To be candid, most of the marketing leaders that I speak with, and granted, they're not, Fortune 5 marketing leaders typically, but most of the marketing leaders that I'm talking to are really struggling to understand how they integrate AI on a holistic basis within their overall marketing structure. I would say they're probably less concerned with what's going on with AI hallucinations and maybe some intentional deception with content on social media, with maybe some fake websites that are being stood up by AI where the content can't be trusted, et cetera. I think they're a little bit more maybe navel gazing or maybe a little bit more focused internally on leveraging AI versus some of the externalities of AI. Not to say, again, not to bash Gartner, not to say that these aren't important, not to say that, to your point, Paul, they aren't things that we'll be very concerned about in the relatively near future, say 3 to 5 years. I'm just not seeing this as a 2024 prediction.
Yeah, and you think back, AI is coming for the last several years, and finally it's here. But how quickly is it going to be adapted by organizations? Obviously, CMOs are trying to stay ahead of the curve, but are businesses ready? Are marketers ready? Are advertisers ready? And then you look at the whole deception that you're talking about, and it's like, when is it going to be a point where is this real? Am I reading something that's factual? And then marketers are going to have to go fact check those things that they're reading on Google, on social media, on websites. That's something that's going to be very interesting to dive into, probably in some future podcasts.
Absolutely. And looking forward to those conversations. I will also say, typically, it's not only marketing's responsibility to vet what's true from an external perspective. Generally, legal's getting involved and they're sending cease and desist letters. Sometimes you have even like the FCC getting involved to make sure that they're stepping in and saying, hey, these claims are actually false, and they're leveraging punitive damages against the infracting entities. And I'll also say, too, social proof is probably going to be a lot more important as we see more of these, fake and misleading pieces of content led by AI. But part of this is also going to be bot profiles, AI generated influencers, which I know we'll get into in a minute, leading people not to trust anything that they see or read online. It's reminiscent, from my perspective, of back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when people were setting up e-com stores and most customers were very leery of giving a credit card number or giving their mailing address to a website. Well, we've seen that pendulum obviously swing dramatically the other direction. At some point, it's probably going to swing back. Is it in this calendar year? I'd be kind of doubtful of that, but something definitely to keep on our radar. So kudos to Gartner for bringing it up.
Sure. And you look at the interim, and it's for right now, I think it's under control. But at some point, how much time is actually going to be needed for people to actually go and do all that fact checking? And all of a sudden, the AI becomes an enemy of a marketer because we're spending so much time, not just as marketers, as you said, but legal and everybody else. How much more human side of things is going to be needed to go and do the fact checking? We look at point number one that we were just getting into, and it's those that have expanded capabilities within organizations, and then all of a sudden, a lot of their time is trying to be working in collaboration with AI, and then part of their time is making sure that what they're putting out for content is actually true and realistic.
Well, and then let's not forget the roles that Amazon, Meta, Google, et cetera, are going to play in determining truth from fiction, especially with AI generated content, Paul. So are marketers supposed to be the ones to go in and say, this is true, publish, this is false, don't publish, or this external site is completely fabricated, flag it and report it? Or will there be some sort of automations and tools built into these major advertising platforms, Google, Meta, et cetera, that go in and help create or help flag and articulate what's true and what's not? I would say more so on the tech side versus maybe the marketing side. But I think your point is well taken, which is, hey, marketers today, within the next 12 months of 2024, let's make sure that what we're publishing is completely accurate, is well-founded, that we're double checking our sources, et cetera, because we don't want to be in a situation where falsities or something are suddenly damaging from an SEO perspective, and we have to go back and unwind a bunch of things that we relied on ChatGPT or Bard or what have you to write or to create. And now that's damaging us from an SEO perspective. So point well taken there, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you think about the days of encyclopedias sitting on the bookshelf and getting dusty. And when it was printed in an encyclopedia, it was factual for the most part, right? And how many months or years is going to take for Google and some other reputable sites to filter through the AI generated content and figure out what is factual, what is going to sneak through from an SEO perspective organically. It might not be factual, and how are those filters going to all play out in the coming months or years?
Absolutely. All questions that we need to be asking and keeping our thumbs on the pulse of. Well, Paul, prediction number 3 is that 50% of consumers will significantly limit social media usage. What do you think about that?
I disagree with this. I think that social media, everything with the mobile device is right in the palm of everybody's hand, and it's very difficult to let go of that. I'm guilty of it myself. Looking when I get a notification on social media, it's the first thing that I check in the morning or at lunchtime. Trying to get rid of those notifications, but I'm interested to see what the notifications are. People are posting. You're interested in following certain content, following certain groups, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X now, right? So looking at all that and keeping up with what's going on with today's world, I think social media is going to be something that's not less viewed or less consumed. You think about some of the other social platforms with the younger generation, with TikTok, that's its own story for another time. But, Instagram, things like that, is that people are constantly trying to figure out, what is going on with my friends, what's going on in business, what's going on in today's world. So I disagree with this bullet point.
I agree with you and disagree with Gartner on this one as well. I do not see a mass exodus of social media. Let's be honest. We know as consumers and as marketers that social media on the whole is negative. Increases in depression, increases in suicidal thoughts, increases in social anxiety. You go down the list, none of them are positive. None of the results of social media use are positive from a research perspective. And what do people do? We use it more. We jump in and we adopt new platforms. Generally, I guess Threads is kind of an exception there where there was high adoption and then high exit. But for the most part, I really don't see any sort of mass exodus coming from social media platforms. What I do see, which may be a little bit of a spin on this, is a massive increase in the amount of AI generated and AI maintained bot profiles that will become influencers because they'll be somewhat unchecked. And I think AI for the time being will be able to navigate around with some human support a lot of the checks and balances in place currently that require humans to be creating profiles and managing and updating those profiles. I think we're going to see a proliferation of bot profiles. If it's not bad enough already, expect it to get a lot worse. That being said, I don't see a situation in the next 12 months or maybe a little bit longer where Meta, Amazon, Google, and other platforms are not still the biggest and the baddest advertising platforms. I know you already offered your 2 cents, Paul, but anything else on that point?
Yeah, I think it is going to adapt and change the way that people consume. The more video content, we talk about that all the time, is the more video content creation that can be done. People are reading less and consuming more when it comes to visual. So, and that converts at a higher level, and that brand retention is definitely much higher when it comes to video versus something that's written. So, the consuming of social media is just going to change, but I don't think the time spent with social media is going to go down.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I see use of highly addictive platforms like Meta, LinkedIn, et cetera, going up. I don't think that as humans, our neurological capabilities are such that we have the discipline to say, this is bad for me, therefore I'm not going to do it, even though it's highly addictive. No, I think, and Vivek Wadhwa, who we interviewed on the podcast probably 2 years ago, would look at this as well. When we have the best neurologists and engineers and psychologists designing things to be addictive and to play off of our brain's wiring, it's going to be very, very difficult, if not almost impossible, for us to limit our usage and even to exit platforms at some level, because we feel like we're missing out and our brains want that dopamine shot every time that we sign on and we engage in the scroll.
I think that really came true a couple weeks ago when my teenage daughter was going through exams, and one of the teachers offered up the opportunity to turn in your mobile phone. And everybody turned in their cell phone and was able to get a higher grade on the exam and focus more attention by giving up that device. It was interesting talking to her about how many of her friends gave up the phone for a week and how many couldn't let it go. And so it was divided. And that just speaks volumes when it comes to that engagement with the phone, and then it also extends to social media and everything else. So very interesting. I'm sure that there's other scenarios where that exists, but I thought that was pretty relevant for that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll say kudos to your daughter for giving her phone up for a week. I know a lot of people, to your point, would be incapable of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Colin. So let's move on to prediction number 4. Acoustic brands will differentiate by being AI free. Some thoughts surrounding that?
I just don't see us at a point right now where consumers care about what's AI generated and what's human generated. I think about Chick-fil-A, and back in, this was probably maybe 2002, 2003, they had this big differentiator where you could go to Chick-fil-A and you could get a hand spun milkshake. And I always thought that was very strange because frankly, I don't care if they're 3D printing my milkshake. If it tastes the same, if the consistency is reliable, great. I'm happy to drink it. And when you go to UDF or any of these other providers, they're spinning the milkshake with the same tool that Chick-fil-A is using. The exception, and what I think Chick-fil-A was trying to differentiate against, is Wendy's, where the Frosty is coming out of the machine, the same consistency that it is in your cup when they hand it to you, or something like that. So are we at a point where customers really care this was generated by AI, or this was a human that was assisted by AI, and this article, this video, this piece of content was created wholesale by a human with no AI influence? I just don't know if we're at the point where that matters all that much. And what's informing this at some level too is when you look at the writer strike and some of the negotiating points that were included there, they wanted defenses against AI because they're so scared that people don't care what's AI free. So for me, this one's kind of a miss. What do you think, Paul?
I would agree. Looking at, as a consumer, put the consumer hat on, people don't care. As long as it's factual and it's not fake news, I don't think consumers care. I think us as marketers care more because this is the business that we're in and we are trying to adapt, and we use it every day. So definitely agree. Consumers do not care as long as it's relevant and it's meeting them where they're at. I agree. It doesn't matter. All right. So prediction number 5, AI will reduce brand visibility in SERPs. Colin, thoughts on that?
Well, the search engine results pages, SERPs, like you said, have been changing the last several years with or without AI. Google, came out with Bard, and that was a little bit of a flub, and now they're replacing it with Gemini. And so I think they're making a big play in the AI space. Is it in the search engine pages it's themselves? I would argue no, but we're going to see AI impact paid search a lot more than organic results, in my opinion. What we should be looking out for from an organic results perspective are Google moving to 0-click and Google adopting infinite scroll. Those things are going to impact how we're ranking pages from an SEO perspective a lot more than AI at the moment. Now, I will say using generative AI to write articles, to build backlinks, those sorts of things, yes, there's absolutely some optimization, some efficiency that can occur there, but let's not put the cart before the horse here and get distracted by what we think AI may do at some point in the future. Let's look at what Google is doing currently in Google Ads and in the SERPs organically versus speculating on what we think AI might do. That being said, there's definitely room, like we have talked about this episode a lot, Paul, for Google to step in and say, hey, we're going to demote this content or flag this content or penalize it in some way because it's misleading, it's hallucinative content. Hallucinative, is that a word? Hallucination content from an AI source, it's inaccurate, etc. I don't see that happening in the next couple of months. Maybe it does, but I could be wrong and Gartner could be right here. Anything to add to that, Paul?
Well, obviously in today's news, plagiarism is a hot topic, right? So, with the universities and everything else out there. So I'm not taking sides on that right now, but at the same time, why does it matter? Why does it matter if you're using AI to be able to bring your content to the public? Why would it matter if you're using AI as a tool? We use platforms all the time to make our lives easier. Why does AI a different tool that should be penalized for that? So I'm kind of up in the air in regards to penalizing for this, as long as it, again, I keep on going back to this, but as long as it's factual, it's not plagiarism, and you're utilizing it in the right manner, I don't see a problem with it.
I agree with that. And to take it a step back, perhaps, we saw TikTok replace Google search in people who were, I think, under 25, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And that trend has sort of stabilized. Are we going to see people using ChatGPT on the whole or Google Bard on the whole instead of going to Google's search engine? I think maybe once it's integrated with smartphones and it's very, very widespread, maybe we'll start to see an uptick in that. But I know there was a lot of freaking out about voice search back when Siri and Alexa and Google Home were becoming popular. And that sort of quelled itself. And I don't see a big change here with generative AI either. Are people going to start using ChatGPT to search the internet regularly? Maybe, but they're not going to do that in the next 12 months. That's my prediction.
I would agree. There's going to be those early adopters, just like AI. The early adopters, we talked about that in a previous episode, but the early adoption is going to be there. I don't know what percent that is. I'm not going to predict that, but definitely for the majority, it's going to take some time.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, this has been a really fun episode looking at Gartner's predictions for marketers for 2024. Some swings and some misses, I would say, some foul balls perhaps, and definitely some opportunities that we should be considering and should be on the radar of a lot of marketing leaders. Anything else you would add before we land this plane?
No, great topic. Looking forward to the future episodes, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you again for tuning in to this week's episode of the Rethink Marketing Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcast platform, and don't forget to leave a review. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If people want to connect with us, where should they go, Paul?
RethinkMarketingPodcast.com, Colin. What can listeners do to help us in return for the sage marketing wisdom and our pithy humor?
They can help us by leaving a review on their favorite platform or sharing this episode with a fellow marketer to help them cut through the clutter.
Well, until next time, keep rethinking those common assumptions.